In this video, we want to talk about another productivity and performance plugin, which is going to enable you to send email from your WordPress website. So, as many of you may know already, when choosing a hosting provider, many host providers now are blocking the ports to a mail server, which is typically usually 4 to 5 different types of ports, commonly known as 25, 578, I believe. Basically, it's the SMTP ports as well as the IMAP ports, and then potentially any POP ports as well. So, because of this, a lot of host providers are no longer allowing you to send email from the server that your website is hosted on. If this is the case, and chances are most likely it is because spam is at an all-time high, and hosting providers, if they don't do this, you have nefarious people doing really bad things like sending a bunch of spam out, which then gets an IP blacklisted, which then burns up that IP so that the host provider then now is blacklisted in that IP. And since you as the site owner don't really own the IP, the host provider does, they're the ones that ultimately suffer from it. So, as a rule of thumb, more and more host providers have done this. As a result, the next plugin that we want to talk about is this WP Mail SMTP. It's extremely popular and extremely flexible, and it's free to begin with. So, go ahead and let's click Activate, and then we'll have a new WP Mail SMTP item over here on the left sidebar. Excuse me. Once you go ahead and enable that, you will be presented then with a plethora of options. Now, it's pretty simple to configure. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it is pretty straightforward, but suffice to say, if you have an existing mail server that you send email out of, then what you'll probably want to do is to use that provider. So for example, if you are using Office 365, go ahead and choose Microsoft Outlook and configure it with your username and your password, either your personal username and password that you normally would use, or set up a new account as a service account and set that out. Now, me personally, and some of the sites that I set up for folks, I like this Twilio SendGrid. It's pretty straightforward, somewhat technical, but nonetheless, it's nothing more that let's just pick this. So you do SendGrid, and all you do is put in the API key and you hit send. Now, that's simple on this side. Setting up Twilio SendGrid, maybe not so easy itself, but nonetheless, once it's set up, you just pop it in here. The one that you don't want to use is the default PHP. There's a reason for all of that. I don't want to get into the high-level details, but again, suffice to say that the PHP mailer that's installed on the local server is going to be blocked, so this is not a good option. This kind of defeats the whole purpose of the plugin. Using an external third-party mail server to send email from for your website is going to be critical. So Microsoft, Gmail, Zoho Mail, SendGrid, these are going to be the most popular ones. For those of you at AWS, SES, which is a simple email service, and that will allow you to send email out through that as well. Also a very cheap and inexpensive option. Matter of fact, that's actually pretty easy to configure as well. So in any event, just wanted to let you know that this plugin is here. Highly suggest using it. If you don't use it and delete it, then you're going to rely on the native WordPress mail to do its job and work properly, and that your host provider, or maybe you have your own server, in which case that would work just fine. But for the majority of folks out there, you're going to need to have a plugin like this in order to have WordPress send its mail, which is extremely important when you set up a new user and you go to email them their password, or somebody tries to log in, they forgot the password, and you click the lost password link and you put your email in, and then expect to get an email with a password reset, and you never get it. Well, the reason for that is because the mail server is broken, on your host provider. And the only way to get mail is to use a plugin like we're showing here. So that's it for this video. We'll see you in the next.